think it's finally time the Miami Heat pick a direction going forward. Let's talk about it. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from Heat fans on the statement I'm about to say, but I'm sick and tired of the shtick of the Miami Heat's roster. And what I mean by that is I'm tired of we're mediocre all season, we can't score, we're not that good, and we get the 8th seed in the playoffs, and then all of a sudden Jimmy Butler plays incredible, and we go on this Cinderella type run, and we put our bodies on the line, we get hurt, and we end up losing. And this isn't coming out of hate from my heart for the Miami Heat. It's actually the opposite. I believe so much in their actual core that I think the front office has done a terrible job of buying in on how amazing Jimmy Butler and some of these players have been in the playoffs. You have Eric Spoelstra, the best coach in the NBA in my opinion. You have Jimmy Butler, a guy in the playoffs who at times looks like a top 5 player. You have Bam, who's undeniably one of the best defenders in the NBA. You have interesting young assets that you can trade to get important pieces back to go win a championship. And it feels like Pat Riley and the entire Miami Heat front office has almost refused to buy in on this core. Over the years when they've made these miraculous runs in the playoffs, I personally have never believed in it because I don't think they've had enough to really get over the finish line and go win a championship. They've been to the finals twice in recent memory, and I never really thought they had a chance. And that's because of the talent on their roster. Jaime Jaquez is a good player, but if you could trade him to get better players back, I would personally do that because I don't know how long guys like Jimmy Butler are going to play at an elite level. You have Nikola Jovic, who started to come into his own last season, and I would expect this year to be a big proving year for Nikola Jovic, but he's another guy where I'm like, let's explore our options and try to get a big trade done. We saw them whiff on Damian Lillard, which was a big deal, and you can blame that on maybe the Blazers not wanting to trade him to the Heat, not want to fulfill Damian's request, or maybe you think the Heat didn't give up a good enough package, but at the end of the day, he's on the Bucks, and you didn't get anything. You added Terry Rozier pretty much instead of Damian Lillard, and while Terry Rozier is a good player, he's not Damian Lillard. They've done a bad job of putting talent around their core, and I can't stress that enough. Look at who they just drafted this year, Kel'el Ware. Kel'el Ware is a center. You have Bam Adebayo on your team. I would imagine in the future you're thinking, oh, Bam can play the 4, we have Kel'el Ware at the 5 because he can, in theory space the floor and he can be an offensive guy and a defensive guy. But right now, that's not the case. Is he going to get a lot of minutes next year? While I like Kel'el Ware as a prospect, I would be shopping him as well. I think there's paths to get this Heat roster to a real threat. And I know Miami Heat fans and the media and their players probably feel like they are a real threat, but in all honesty, I don't buy into that because they don't have the level of talent. And when you have a path to get that level of talent, I don't quite understand what's the reason why you're not doing it. You had DeJounte Murray out there, who I think would have been a phenomenal pickup for them. Another guy who can score and defend and fits the Heat culture. I didn't hear any rumors about him. I would be looking at a guy like Brandon Ingram because you're kind of limited when it comes to shot creators. Besides Tyler Hero, besides Terry, and besides Jimmy, it's actually pretty much zero past that. Everyone else is either a spot-up shooter or a defensive guy. Having a guy like Brandon Ingram on the team, I think, would be massive for them. Lauri Markkanen's always a name that I'm always going to throw out for these teams. After he signs that extension, it's not realistic anymore. Now, if you want to tell me, oh, well, their young guys are good, we believe in them in the future, then screw the Jimmy Butler timeline. Let's trade him. Move Bam to the 4 next year, start Kel'el Ware, start all your young guys and ship Jimmy Butler off for some more assets. Let's not play the game of trying to play both sides. It never works. And you don't have the best young assets in the NBA, and you don't have the best core. You have to pick one or the other. And this is a similar thing for pretty much every team in mediocrity. Being in mediocrity is the worst spot you can be in the NBA because you're not getting high draft picks, so it's harder to improve your team from the draft. You're not making any strides in the playoffs, really. You're either a first-round exit or like the Miami Heat, who have these fake, in my opinion, fake runs. Your team's not anywhere. It's in purgatory. And I don't like how the Miami Heat, to me, feels like they're selling a fake dream to their fans of, oh, we have a chance. But they'll never buy in on that. So you either got to buy in on a ring, you have to buy in on your win now players, which I very much think is possible. You have Jimmy Butler, you have Bam Adebayo. Those are 2 top 25 players at the minimum in the NBA. And you have those 2 guys on the roster. You have salaries to match. You have a Tyler Hero salary. You have a Duncan Robinson salary. You have interesting young players like Nikola Jovic and Kel'el Ware and Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez. You have a path to add really good players onto your roster. So you got to pick a side. Either rebuild or go for the championship. Don't stick where you're at now. Don't go with the Heat culture shtick, which is let's suck all year and let's turn up in the playoffs. Because that's just a poor way of getting to where you want to be. That's going to get you in a position where you match up with the Celtics in the first round and don't give yourself a chance. Get yourself to the 4th seed, match up with the Magic in the first round, and go win a championship, because you have the potential to do that in a not loaded Eastern Conference. It's very top heavy. So you could go and be the 4th seed if everything went right. Buy in on it. It's time. Okay, guys, it's time to let me know. Am I right about the Heat? Do they need to pick a direction, or do you still believe this roster can win a championship as is? I don't know. Let me know.